trying to pass it through. But if there's room eventually, then
we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see.
I finally saw the new Schweinstein violin. It was fantastic. I missed it.
Yeah.
Last time. They're coming in more farther. Farther to the back. There's only two. Okay.
Unless that's more.
Okay. And he painted those?
Oh yeah.
What did he do?
He's just very about how he's going to do it. What time he's going to do it.
Do you remember that line to Woody Allen's? I forget what it is. It might be Annie Hall.
Yeah.
And he's talking about like the father, the would-be father-in-law. It's like, what is this guy not an expert in? He's a wine expert and a connoisseur and a gourmet chef.
Well, see, I'm excited.
What does he not do? It's sort of ready to do a quick film check?
His side of the family goes white like immediately. And so I was always thought one of the
So what are you doing these days?
I have like elf hair, like white, like elf hair, but it hasn't come in.
No, I'm ready. Tired.
I've seen the picture on Facebook. Yes. You're famous. How are you? Good, this is exciting.
I get my wine.
Oh, the nice thing is...
Yeah, I was going to. He was before the pandemic. He would host like every other month.
Didn't have to fight his rap.
LA Stereoscopic Society over in Pasadena at the Armory.
That's right. You guys live in Pasadena.
And it was fun. We talked about Sawyer, Sawyer remaster. I'm not super. Yes, which I still haven't seen. But I think it's interesting, like,
I'm still alive.
Toast it.
Oh, that'll be on Facebook soon.
Is she our lovely toaster? Yes. Is she our toaster? You're our toaster, right?
I am the toaster.
Oh, yay. Say something toaster.
Let's go to the City of Light.
Yeah. Well, that's
Where's the master?
That's the painting right behind you. The City of Light.
Here it is.
Oh, I know who
Have
did
you
that
seen
one.
the movie?
Do I still sound like the toaster after 7 years?
Sure, you do sound the same.
I do.
Sure, you can sit on the stage, you can sit here.
Are you going to be there the whole time?
I am, just running the
He's running the show. He's the man behind the curtain.
I have to just pull the curtain.
So we're not supposed to pay attention to you, right?
I'll mimic him and
And then Toto will pull the curtain back, but the curtain is attached to Toto's collar.
Oh, no.
If you ever noticed?
Oh no.
Yeah, oh yeah. I hate to let the monkey out the box.
Like I said,
I think I owe it to you. It's Jim Beebald.
yeah,
Jim Beebald.
I don't know yet.
Good.
We'll have to catch up. We'll have to muster. What's your last day?
Because I told you the story about
Mama, smile. Can she hear me? Smile.
She struggled with it. You can hear her demeanor change.
Yep.
Because it shows it was like.
I did nothing with it. Yeah. I'm in, we have improv class. And we did ground
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm over here.
And we did.
I'm gonna get
one here. Deanna and me and another guy from the ground.
Jericho Cleveland.
CFS.
I just saw her. Went to Casey's with Robert and
Put us up
doing a double header. I was hoping to be involved.
I guess.
Do you like this scene?
Yeah.
South of Fame. Alfred. When he said that he thought Rees was the best composition Williams ever did. And it was like, because it was on the tail end of, well, he just did Star Wars and just did Superman. Now what are you doing? Well, Jaws is flawed. In terms of the hero march, which one's
Star Wars.
that's what he's coming like his initial knee-jerk in Star Wars. And he has right, and then he has to do Superman after that. He has to make that. He has to make separation between those two because they could be sounding very similar, and they do.
Yes, I'm not sure yet if Alan is connecting.
Well,
The room that Alan is making a part-time job.
Is Tim here?
yeah. Well, wait, what's that?
For me, it's hard to separate the score from the movie, and I
How do you
don't
like that?
Oh, for 41, right? No, but no. I meant Raiders.
You lived in Arizona.
I thought the March, but the
Raiders movie.
got a wrong frame in it.
I mean, I thought the theme is great.
And it's his part. Dun, 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 dun. It's like, he's exactly great. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My favorite.
Oh, Lost Who's Herman? Oh, Bernard Herman. Yeah. I tell you though, I have problems with it. I have real problems with it. And it's like nobody even examines that second act. And I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is that Scotty comes to her door as, she's...
So far, so good.
She's the girl. She's,
Oh, yeah, and Kansas. And she doesn't register, she opens the door, there he is, and she was implicated, would she be implicated in a murder? We don't know that. How do we know that? If he had somehow told us, steals itself to raise him somehow, if he's been worth his salt, is that I'm on that. No, I didn't like that. I don't like the remake where he's taking her and she just goes along with it. Well, yeah, that's it. Well, she was still in love with us. When we were battling, and then Judy, I didn't like that she had one, not even an eyebrow. To me, it was like that. Yeah, yeah. So complicated. Well, and then nobody was saying, well, we come up with a plan like that. And so it was dismissed. Just kind of Hitchcock so. But it's great. But it's a great one.
Yeah. And we managed to
Right. We don't see it.
And instead we say, what's this harrowing? Oh my God.
So Scotty witnesses suicide. That's the whole thing.
So many things. Like you said, but none of that.
You had a nice one. Was that new?
Drawn in, it's all lighting as it's driving the streets of San Francisco.
Yeah. Just a lot of work.
Surreal, and animated flowers, blooming, and it's just flashing colors.
That apartment
Oh yeah, that's great.
No. Well, like I said,
I'm an actor and writer. Yeah.
all the
Are we supposed to?
Yeah.
How are you?
How are you, sir?
I'm good. It's good to see you.
You look great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. How have you been?
Fabulous. Thriving.
I don't know if there's a place I could get some water. These are for and so, is there
You like movies?
I don't think I can.
You all right? No, this is not. This is us. Wait, kicking my daughter out. Well, no, when she went around there, she wasn't even a glint.
You should have take you to the Academy Museum.
Just generally, not like
Motion picture several times.
that's a good place to start.
They watched it.
I saw that. She did that kind of stuff on. That's your daughter. She's our teacher.
I listened to it over and over. Amazing.
And you see your responsibility of our students.
I was in Burbank.
like dance stamps I want. Because Mark didn't go there. I got a job because Mark was like,
And that's a classic. I do. I mean, they just fit in here.
They jump.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. It's nice to meet you. Thank you. Yeah.
yes, Chris and David started right up here.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
What are we doing?
You can sit here.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
this is all our group around here. So next to Deanna.
Hi, Ian. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Please sit with me.
Where's Jerry sitting? Where are you sitting?
Jerry's right there. So you can see.
I know.
Is he 7 years?
Well, my mother, yes.
Yeah.
Her name is Susie Allen. And I took some That's Susie Allen.
Sure.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. How are you today?
Very good.
Oh, my God. I'm Tina Price. I have the pleasure of being able to achieve this band's vision. We wanted to bring you all together. So with further ado, please find a seat if you're a pro and you worked on the crew. Find a seat up front here. We've got boom mics that are going to be picking up. We're zooming out. We have an audience in, and we have a 360 camera.
We have a 360 camera here, so anybody wearing a headset is in the middle.
Wow, we're fully covered. So you are being watched at all times. Just wanted to let you know. Watch that finger. Watch that
There's no
finger.
bad seat in the house.
All right, with further ado, Jerry, thank you very much. Thank you all.
Well, it's an absolute joy to gather here with the cast and crew of the Brave Little Toaster. Gosh, back in 1985, we started this, and at the time it was just, we were starving to do something creative, and we wound up doing this independent thing that was just pirate and crazy. And looking back over the years, having done so many different things that are more standard and innovative, this stands out as just something that warms my heart and it has meaning for me and evidently for so many other people. We keep getting feedback, and certainly our cast and crew have remained connected in such a vibrant way. It sort of surpasses any other experience I've had. So we're going to do a couple chapters here. I'm going to take people down memory lane with some pictures of behind the scenes, and as people get stories occur to them, they want to join in, we can have conversation with that. And then we're going to take a break after a while, and when we come back, we are going to start with
a video from Steve Siegel that shows behind the scenes. It was the only behind the scenes footage that was shot of working in Taiwan together during that phase. And then we'll open up to just questions and answers, anything that you have on your mind. But this first phase is more about us going down memory lane together and just jogging memories. So here we go. Okay, you can turn the screen over to me now. Okay, cool. Here we are. I will just do a quick head count of who is here. So we have Deanna, who was voice of the character. And David Newman. We have Christina Newman, Susie Allenson Williams, who was our singing microwave and singing sports car. We have Roger Freeland, who was a singer on Worthless. We have James Byhold, layout artist and a fencing champion, by the way, which I was not aware of.
Be careful.
Yes. Randy Cartwright, directing animation. We have Bert Hansen, layout artist. Alex Mann, storyboard artist, layout artist. Brian McEntee, art director. We have Rob Minkoff, character designer and model. And people will see that. We have Steve Moore, animator and Rebecca Rees, directing animator. Chuck Richardson, production supervisor, additional voices, and additional visual effects. Wow, wore many hats.
Spread out all over the
Daryl Rooney, storyboard artist, layout artist. I think he is en route from another gig and will be running in soon. So I think
always double roles.
Yes, it's double roles. We have Steve Siegel, Chris Wall, animator, layout artist. Stephen Wall, layout artist. Kurt Wise, developmental animator. And me, Jerry Rees, and
Kirby's what?
Steve Moore, you did this yesterday, didn't you? So, little thoughts about where the characters are now. Poor Kirby.
Some of them had a bit of a hard life. Turned out the master was a toxic narcissist.
Right. And then Daryl Rooney sent me something. He also was inspired. He went another direction, and Deanna, you might read the dialogue that's coming up here.
All right.
And as Toaster.
Although I think that's a good representation of me at this point in my life.
Yeah, so this is Toaster. He went, what if it's not the brave little toaster, it's the brave little AI toaster. So he did this.
Would you like me to warm up your toast? Or would you like me to kill everyone and take over the world?
Like that, they turn on the dime.
Toaster did sort of invade our lives recently in an unexpected way. Here's when it happened.
Is it fun?
This was also Steve was behind this.
Oh, that cake. That's right.
I have a little audio here.
Surprise Rebecca.
They were like luring Rebecca into the kitchen.
Like that's hard.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rebecca.
That's a cake.
How do we not get the Pop-Tarts out? I mean, they already have one, but...
Aw.
This side so we get this piece. Oh my God. There you go. Get on the other side. So Steve, you found a bakery that did this, right?
Yeah, bakery up my way.
You did the drawing.
I did the drawing, she did the rest.
Yeah.
So much better than the Kellogg's one.
Yes. So it takes me back to, we actually have the original painting of this. I always love this moment where they're just settling down for the night. Just a few thoughts. We only had $2.25 million for all 90 minutes of our film. So at the time, like Care Bears was 7, I think Bluth was 12, Disney was 25 million. So we were the cheapest thing going. Every day, our animators had to accomplish what would have taken 2 weeks at Disney. Wow. It's pretty daunting. Come to you and say, like, you know, your next 2 weeks plan? End of today. Pretty hard. But the most creative freedom we ever had, still to this day, we cared for each other and for our characters, and we were not product makers, we were storytellers.
Good.
And just something that warmed my heart is letters, emails, and drawings from fans have been heartwarming evidence of the connection. Mark McKinsey and his now wife, Lisa, it was years ago. We were in touch for entirely other reasons, and he just discovered that I had done Toaster. So he wrote this. I asked him if I could put this on my website, and he said yes. So he wrote, I had no idea you were the director of the old Disney classic, The Brave Little Toaster. Dude, I grew up watching that movie. It was one of my favorites. Makes me want to grab a copy for old time's sakes. Sheesh, I still have vivid imagery of that movie now, and I'm sure there was some deep meaning behind that movie that I can somehow remember. Never letting go of what you love most, no matter what it takes.
Wow.
They've now been married for a few years, and they have 2 little kids that are growing up. And there's just, we get drawings from people. There's so many. Ben Cross is somebody that's been in touch, sending notes and art for a long time. Andrew Ald does videos, and I just grabbed a frame from one of his videos. You can look those up. Kira Devani, she just painted this one recently and sent that image to me. Harriet Wong did this beautiful piece that she handed to us a few weeks ago, and it's on display here. And she is here today, and she brought a whole bunch more art with her today. So, and I don't know who did this. It was on DeviantArt. I absolutely love it. I'm sure maybe somebody here knows who that was. And there's this guy who's a cosplay guy.
That's Rob.
He's great. I see him everywhere. I did find out how to get a note to him and told him things. And Teresa Dindy, we met her out in Arizona a while back, and so I got to see her amazing toaster car. It's entirely, everything is about toast. Look at that engine.
Wow.
And I got to pretend to drive it. I think, Carol, you got to ride in the car, right?
Wow. Drive it back to the dock.
And she even sent me 2 books. There was The Adventures of Toaster, and there was the Further Adventures of Toaster. And I caught Toaster like sneaking around our backyard. I'm going to do a little bit of reading about review. This was back when we first came out, and it was from David Edelstein, and I just thought he really understood what we were doing. So many people misinterpreted and weren't sure what we were up to, so I'll just read this. The Brave Little Toaster is one of the loveliest full-length cartoons ever made. A buoyant and sometimes melancholy ode to the gizmos that once meant more to us than, as grown-ups, we can unblushingly explain. It's not a dazzler the way Fantasia or Pinocchio or even the techno-wonder Who Framed Roger Rabbit are. It's old-fashioned, low-tech, but the point of the movie, which is based on a novella by Thomas Dish, is that simple, outdated objects can absorb and reflect so much more of our souls than their newfangled upgrades can. In the picture spell, we turn to a state when the world was, pre-user friendly. This is a universe where our most beloved possessions have distinct personalities and needs. The strongest link about the toaster, blanket, radio, lamp, and vacuum cleaner in a country cabin is the love they share for the little boy, the master, who arrives every summer to play with them. The look of the characters is rarely more complicated than your average Hanna-Barbera cartoon. They have broad lines and big round eyes and black marble pupils, but they're mobile emotionally. There's nothing cartoonish about their hearts. By the end, we know them well, their quirks, their moods, their pet peeves. The stalwart toaster, who acts as the peacemaker, gestures with his black handles so that in bringing forth a piece of perfect toast, he seems to throw up his arms in ecstasy. The needy blanket, always wanting to cuddle, enfolds itself in hastily fashioned arms and mews adorably. The lamp is nice and dim and sounds like a Muppet. The curmudgeonly vacuum cleaner Kirby has a bass voice that's instantly familiar as the one that sang the songs in How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Maybe the best of all, it's the wise guy radio, brilliantly played by John Lovitz, who provides a constant spew of 30s and 40s oral memorabilia. Game shows, speeches, slogans, famous sports broadcasts. He calls the brave little toaster sluts. The director, Jerry Rees, is a real filmmaker. It's odd to speak of camera angles, since technically speaking there aren't any, everything is drawn, but Rees has storyboarded the film as if the toaster and its comrades were actors instead of cartoons, and lo, they become so. So, how it all began, let's just jump in, and I'm going to race through these. I have far too many pictures, but if it brings back memories for anybody. Oh, Rebecca, there you are. You can't. Yes, we were in McCadden Place in Hollywood, and out the window was bricks. So if you look at that was the view. So that was not a prop; it was a real building. Brian, working away, and Joe Ramp coming to visit in the room where I had Joe. He was our soulmate during that whole thing, and just a magical person, and we miss him every day. So he came in to visit very often. You can see my ancient K-Pro computer there, one of the first mobiles, back in, this was 85. Daryl Rooney coming to visit. And Chuck, we're planning something there.
A scene.
Right. And Ann Talnis, working with us there. She is now a Pulitzer Prize winning political cartoonist, I believe. And there's Alex. I got a lot of pictures of you, Alex. Working away.
Because he was always underfoot.
So great. There was, Alex and Joe Rooney and I boarded the whole film. There's Daryl.
I was never late for work. Sorry.
Fill up a chair.
Those are the early days. There's not much on the wall.
Yes. Oh, this was 85. We were just getting started. Yeah. First few weeks.
It was the 80s.
So Daryl, your pictures are just coming up. We got here just in time. But Alex is looking very cool with the shades, I must say.
Wow,
Jim Croce.
Yeah, charming as can be. And then coming up, I have a picture of you and Joe. I just love this. You guys work together constantly. And there's some little notes. I can't quite read them. The resolution isn't enough, but it's notes that we made back and forth to each other. Look, kids, how young those kids are. Kurt, and Kevin, and Kevin Lima.
Have you seen these children?
Fresh out of school.
They would look like this now.
Sweet young thing. Future co-director of the Beauty and the Beast and future director of the Goofy movie, sitting together. There's Anne.
And still Anne.
And there we were gathered together in the brick building. Daryl, there you are. Yay. Looking very, very suave. It looks like you're drawing the meadow scene.
Look, pads.
Yeah, you can see some, and Joe working away there.
Were the pads would tear away? They were, you'd tear them, right? Were they perforated?
We just kind of would. When I drew, I was just draw straight down and cut paper and just tape them together. There's no.
Everybody's going down. Everybody's just going vertically.
Yeah, we kept just moving them around. Yeah. You can see our cool digs. We had the rats would peek through the ceiling there. They actually did that. We had rats trying to vie for the bagels in the morning.
We had those actual rat holes like you see in cartoons.
Yeah.
In the walls. You'd see the rat hole down by the floorboard.
Complete with a little welcome mat.
A tiny little bed and a tiny radio.
But do you guys remember seeing the rats on the table in the morning and sort of saying something about it? And they were.
I remember the rat prints.
I never heard any. Oh yes, rat prints.
Rat prints on the drawing.
They were saying they wanted to be in the meadow sequence, right? Is that what they were?
Tanya. Yay. Tanya, you're watching. Tanya said she was going to watch. We celebrate you, Tanya. We wish you were here. We miss you. John Norton. There's James Byhold working away. There you are. Very studious. And there you are together.
Not doing anything. Oh, he's a pencil man.
Kevin working away again. And Tim Hauser was doing. I was so hoping he would be here today. Tim is another one that's almost made it.
I can tell you what he's doing here.
He just showed up.
He was doing the Star Trek theme. He was doing the high pitched female voices.
Oh.
Somewhere I still have that tape.
Oh,
from season 2.
Yeah. So entertainment behind the scenes. There you guys are.
Look at our view.
Yeah, it was the bricks.
So inspiring.
That was not a prop. That was a real building right next to our window.
Uh-oh.
Now, Randy, you had already, 10 years under your belt at Disney?
It's gotta be
it was 75 I started there.
So it was
about
10 years.
I guess. Yeah.
Kevin
So you left him.
He was kind of
well, no, I actually I moved to Japan first and worked on Little Nemo and Slumberland for a couple of years.
Oh, right.
Then got married to my
Junko,
wife.
you're the reason our battery is the Junko battery, by the way.
Yeah. Joe's wife, Sue, was supposed to manage paying all the bills for the apartments and electricity and stuff like that. But as soon as we got there, she hurt her back seriously.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and she couldn't do a thing, so Junko had to take over and do that job. The thing is, the people in Taiwan, of course, speak Chinese, and of course we speak English. She speaks Japanese.
Right.
And she knew some English, and she had studied some Chinese in high school, but she had to translate between Chinese and English.
Right.
Neither of which was her original language.
Right.
But
that's quite a task, and we also had three translators constantly at the studio overseas as well.
Yeah. And who's dead in the background?
That's
Kevin.
Usually for about an hour after lunch.
The schedule.
That pose was pretty much all over the studio.
Jerry, I think you called Randy our one old man.
Yeah, that's right. He had to have the most experienced style.
Channeling Kimball.
It was a much smaller studio, so we didn't need 9.
Now, Rob, in addition to doing character design at school, were you very aware that we were just designing you for the movie?
I remember this very clearly, is that Steve animated a scene, maybe like the first or second scene, and you said that you had him pushing up his glasses, which was something, I had like those giant those are smaller glasses than I had in 1985. I had like giant things, and they would just always slip down my face, and so I was constantly pushing them up. And the other thing that I remember you saying is that I walked in a peculiar way, which was that my heel somehow didn't leave the ground, or left the ground late. Am I making that up?
Yeah.
Well, that was the 80s, I don't know.
So that was but that was before I think you decided to name the character Rob.
Yeah, and then I definitely decided to name him Rob because of you, and we picked up your mannerisms, and I went, oh, he's alive for me now. So you did more than just design that character, you embodied the character. And to visit, Tony Anselmo visiting. Yeah. That was great. And Alex, we're planning something here.
Yes, we are.
I'm not sure what we're doing something serious.
The escape is at midnight.
There, I think I'm drawing the scene where the picture broke, and the air conditioner is going to start spewing cold air on them and having a confrontation. So, thanks to Brian and Chuck for getting these black and white pictures, by the way. You know, I recently went through and scanned a whole bunch, like 2,820 original individual storyboard panels for the Brave Little Toaster, but I could not find a few. So I couldn't find this separate versions of these, so at least I have, Chuck, your picture you got of the whole panel of the opening sequence that I did for the film.
Of the one just, do you have a guess how many there were altogether?
Right now I have about 80% of the film. I'm missing a couple of entire sequences. So City of Light is missing, most of the swamp is missing, but 2,820 is about 80% of the film. So I'm guessing all told it's like 3,500 to 4,000, something like that. Here we have something that was happening in that building at McHadden Place as we started to design the characters, try to move them around. So here's a bit of experimental animation pencil tests. And Rebecca and Steve and Kirk, and you'll see everybody's names at the top of the frame while the scenes play. And most of the time, the camera operators spelled my name wrong. You'll see in the slate. So here's a little music. Rebecca's animation of radio. So they had to figure out how these guys moved. Sure. I love using the blood for the... Oh, went back. Yeah, Steve, I love that little waddle.
Where would you get these shot?
I'm trying to remember.
B. Miller, maybe? Or?
I'm not sure.
Because they would slay.
Oh, I like that little double skip.
That's cute.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Thanks for the music, Dave. Waking up. I like the little inchworm crawl.
I don't think we ever used that.
Waking up. Yep. Kirk. Get every little piece of dust. And what happens, we had to have the rules of what could happen when they were plugged in, when not plugged in. So he could run smoothly when he's plugged in. He has to waddle back when he's not plugged in. You'll see. So not plugged in, has to move different. Oh, we used this in the film actually. Bolt burns out.
It's the flashback.
Puts it back in. Rebecca and Kevin did a little thing with Chris and Rob back and forth. Just playing with attitudes. Crazy Ernie.
Crazy Ernie.
Yeah. Right. Which I actually found it was such that's an essential thing to build how the characters would move, how they would be themselves. You know, Rebecca, your thing of the plug being used as a hand, it made so much sense. But you have this, you know, this character that basically had no appendages, you know, just a neck. But using that was a great solution. And once we established those rules, everybody else in the team could get ready to use those for all the characters. Then why we started writing dialogue and laying it out, and got in the recording booth. And so here we all are. Deanna, there you are, bringing
Hi.
Toaster to life. Looking very serious, and then getting into your routine there.
Oh.
I'm looking at you. There's Tim recording, Tim Stack recording Lampy, and also Zeke, the customer that comes in.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, was wondering if you got some radio done.
That wasn't Gary Cooper?
And by the way, he sent a note this morning. He was trying to make it today. Couldn't at the last minute. He's on a gig, but he sent a very nice note this morning. It says hi to you all. And John Lovitz, Rebecca and I were just going through Vegas, and his billboard was up. He's booked right now, so we had a little exchange with him, wishing him good luck, and he's wishing us. Gosh, it's just so much fun. We by the way, later we could talk more about it if people want, but we had to do an entire marathon recording session for all of his lines in one session. John's recording for the entire feature was one endless session.
Was it because he had the Saturday Night Live
He
gig?
was just booked on Saturday Night Live, and his agent said, sorry, he's out of here, and so I called John and pled with him. He said, I'll see what I can do. And so we had one day. And that is a whole story in and of itself. But he survived. But it was a big adventure, I'll tell you. And it had a middle chapter where we didn't know what was going to happen. He pulled through, and we got everything. Then I sat in with you guys to feed his lines as my faux radio to do ensemble scenes.
Yeah.
And that eventually gave birth to me singing the radio parts at David's insistence when we had him gone. So. And then going over, and it's great to have Joe hanging out with us and inspiring everyone. And there's Thurl Ravenscroft and Susie. There you are, helping us get everything right as usual. And oh man, he was just what a treat. I was so used to Thurl's voice from so many sources, all over Disneyland and you know, of course the Grinch and everything. But I remembered him from like the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack, and he's one of the singing heads in the Haunted Mansion.
Tony the Tiger.
Tony the Tiger. That was the last thing I knew. It's like I knew all the other Disney references, and then somebody said Tony the Tiger. Oh, that's right.
Tiki Room.
Yeah.
Tiki Room. Yeah. And
Fritz.
Buff the Buffalo Head and Country Bear Jamboree, etc., and Voice on Train, etc.
Did the train run?
And he had great stories for David. Here we are, mixing and listening, and then you know, Chuck and David and Susie and I would just sit and listen to his stories. He just had amazing stories with Walt and with Elvis Presley and on and on. Timothy E. Day, great, wonderful kid actor, and we used to call him One Take Timmy because he just would nail it, and he would want to know his motivations, and he would ask, and then he would deliver. And I have not been able to find out where he is. I've really done diligent searching and was trying to reach out to see if he might participate in something like this. I can't find him right now. Well, I've been trying for about 5 years to find out.
Did he act afterwards?
I cannot find anything. But you know, his mom, so it was the sweetest thing. She was the opposite of a stage parent. She just said he would see kids acting and stuff and said, I think I can do that. And could you please call some people? And so she goes, I just tried, and you guys liked him, so I just drove him here. So she would just sit quietly in the back, and he would do his thing, and we all just loved him. So Phil Hartman doing his wonderful air conditioner, and he also did the Peter Lorre lamp too. But here's a little time travel with him. I just thought this was great. This is another audio piece.
They appear to be. Give a careful look and listen to this cartoon.
Somebody untie the knot in this guy's cord.
Why don't you just shut off?
Hey, I'm real scared there, Kirby. What are you gonna do, suck me to death?
I think that the air conditioner's voice is Jack Nicholson's, right? Well, that's what we thought until we checked it out. It actually is the voice of this man, Saturday Night Live co-star Phil Hartman.
My best impressions are the ones that are in a similar timbre. For example,
Jack Benny has always been one of my best. And you see, Jack Benny is sort of in the same place as Jack Nicholson. It's that tiny edge in the back of your throat.
You know something? You're a real bright little lamb.
the character of the air conditioner gets very emotional, and Jack Nicholson is very funny when he gets angry. He's so overblown and crazy, you know. So I think it worked well.
Judy Toll also participated. I think Mindy, Sterling and Judy Toll were the two parts of the sewing machine. They argued with each other. Yeah. Oh, it was brilliant the way they improvised that. Joe, I so loved giving him his first official role, speaking role as Elmo St. Peter's. You know, we would all, when people would come through to potentially invest in our film, we would pitch storyboards. And so we'd take turns getting up and doing voices and entertaining, and I'd shove the board out of the way, Joe would come up and do stuff. And I just loved when he would do his Elmo St. Peter's, and so I said, do the final. He said, really? So it was just great having him do that. He really put his whole heart into it. And which is great. And Wayne Katz is the Rob voice, so your voice. And Colette Savage for Chris. And I sang for the radio and did a couple squirrels and did the megaphone and stuff like that.
A couple of squirrels.
Yeah. Hey fellas, come here, look at this. And then Jailbreak, the megaphone, etc. Storyboards, it was just great how what we would do in those quick little intention sketches and the storyboards would really follow through to the final, and just, it was great to see the, you know, because when we were boarding, we would put the intention of the performance mainly, and take a commit to the cinema, but really committing to the acting that would happen in the middle of that cinematic choice. And boy, did the final just follow everything beautifully. And also, if some people had asked, so I quickly threw in, people had asked if we had more model sheets, and we did find some. So this morning, I just grabbed these shots, folder, and so you could see some of the characters that we have. I'll do more proper things later on, but just some of the poses, the attitudes of all the different characters. So there's many, many of those available for people to see later on when we get our act together and scan them properly.
Hey Jerry, I
yes.
found, I brought some incidental characters I found.
Oh.
I had a whole bunch of them, looked like Kevin had designed them.
Excellent.
Stuff I'd forgotten I had, like, you know, one scene little characters.
Yeah. That's great. Do you want to bring them out now? Or bring them out later on? I could just jump to the next part of my thing. I'd rather see your stuff. All right. So I'll just jump quickly to my next chapter here while you get those out. Yeah, we have a couple cameras that can...
Shooter? Quadruped. Did he actually have a name, or did we just call him that internally?
Oh, there you go. Oh, you can show him.
Oh, I'm showing.
Yeah, yeah.
I show and tell.
Oh, yeah. Good boy, Quadruped. You remembered your scene.
We have Quadruped. I don't know if you can see that. That's the dog.
Oh, yeah.
Those are Kevin drawings for sure.
We got Chris.
Where did she start?
Chris.
Yes, yes.
Who was her big inspiration? Was there an inspiration for Chris?
Oh, no, I
tell us?
Grungy television. Do you remember?
Yes. Yeah.
Who was grungy television? I don't even remember this character.
That was in B-Movie.
B-Movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember him drawing that, designing it.
There's Jerry's guy. Jailbreak.
Jailbreak. Yeah.
Refrigerator. You know, you got to design a refrigerator if you're going to put it in the movie, right? Like, this refrigerator had no face for some reason. I guess you had to open the door maybe inside. Electric pencil sharpener.
What's that?
This device is an electric pencil sharpener.
What's a pencil?
I think this is one of the supposed high-tech ones. What's this? Hot air corn popper.
Oh yeah.
That's where
State of the art.
That was in the apartment, I think, in the city.
Oh, here's master. Rob poses. Do you do those, Randy?
I don't think so, no. I don't think I need a storyboard.
Oh yeah, even during the journey, how the chair would be, the radio would
Chair and battery.
Battery would be strapped to the chair. for travel, yeah.
Explaining how that whole thing is put together.
The Junko battery, right?
The Junko battery, yes. Then there's Young Master. Those,
Yeah, yeah.
Those kind of look like Kevin's.
Yeah, that looks like Kevin. It's definitely his handwriting.
Yeah, sometimes Rob, I was on some of those. I was going, Kevin or you?
Yeah. Crazy Ernie, who didn't make the cut.
But I did find the storyboards for that segment. So
apparently, I had some poses. I don't know of them. I don't know what they were from, but they're not. I don't think they're in here. Here's the lamp that answers the door when they go to the house.
Bugsy, Jim Jackman, another guy from the ground.
Big voice. I remember he had a blue.
And piece of
Carry
trivia.
not upon our doorstep.
Yeah,
something like that.
Always, yeah. Piece of trivia: he was the voice of the guy that gets eaten in Alien Encounter. I had him voice the
You
guy
made
that
sure
gets
of that, huh?
eaten every time.
Here's your home entertainment center.
Wasn't that Randy Bennett?
With the
Home Entertainment Center, I think, was Randy Cook, the artist.
With the projection, with the 3-color projection.
Here's our movie review. Here's El Toaster.
El Tostero.
That scene got cut. Here's your dragonfly.
Cute.
In the meadow.
Pretty sure that's one of Kevin's. I think most of these are Kevin's. Birds, just
right
from the meadow. Random birds. Oh, and then the frogs.
Oh yeah.
To do the
Daryl,
Busby Berkeley thing.
We boarded the Busby Berkeley choreography with those.
But that's a missing sequence, right?
And flies. Did we have? I don't remember the flies.
Just in the meadow. Just in the meadow.
Oh, that's
long
right.
tongues,
Yeah.
long
That's
tongues.
right.
They were doing some of the little buzzy sounds.
These are the mice that come up to Blanky.
And start chewing on the master's picture.
They try to pull him down their little mouse hole.
Take him down too.
Yeah.
There's the gopher. He said, "Are you looking at me, gopher?"
Yes, he got cut out of the movie, but he was the taxi driver gopher.
That had happened by then? This guy, taxi driver?
You were looking at me.
Oh, he's got
You're looking at me.
Yes.
Because he was looking in the reflection, right?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
seeing himself.
That part was actually boarded out, yeah.
Yeah. Coming back now. B. Don't remember B, but there's a B.
Just part of the Buzzy Meadow music.
A skunk.
And they are, and the color versions of those are on the long cell on the wall
there
too.
they are.
So
There's a skunk.
Yeah, there you go. The rough.
Same pose.
Got it.
Long hair.
It's the 80s.
There's an owl.
Yep.
I don't remember him. But
It just flies to be dramatic in the forest.
raccoon. I mean, there's a whole other movie in this stuff. But nice design there.
I don't know, Jerry, too many characters.
That's right. Yes, that was one of the mantras.
There's Elmo.
Looks like Chris
So
Buck drawings.
did quadruped belong to Elmo?
Could have been.
Yeah,
Chris is
quadruped
one of
was
our
Elmo's
character
dog.
designers.
Yeah.
There's the beaver. I don't remember him.
Yeah, they do the tail slaps as part of the music in the metal.
You guys see any of this, or you just hitting my back?
It's on the screen. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm in front of it.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know. I think you got this Blanky. Did we have him?
Yeah.
And there's an original.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, yeah.
Just
the blue pencil. One of the B-movie characters.
Yeah.
One of the crazy Frankenstein ones.
Another original. I don't know how I ended up with these, but
yeah, those are fun.
That's original studio property.
I know.
Where's the stamp? I see the stamp.
Called
the stamp.
Called Steve Reinhardt.
Oh, Will Hyde.
This is a layout. I don't know if any of you guys.
Wow.
Jim.
Nice.
Or is this yours, Brian?
I know where that.
It's probably one of my roughs or something.
But that was the park shop.
Nice.
This is one of Joe's. I had T-shirts made of this for the crew. It was one of Joe Ramp's boards.
I have that sequence of that character that was cut out after the break we take later on. I can show people boards for the mole that got cut out of the movie. So I have that sequence.
Peter Lorre.
Yes, the Peter Lorre.
You poor baby, your bulb is burned down.
Yes, right.
My chair.
And then this is the Victrola that starts the B-movie song. And you know, they're cool looking characters. You only get a quick glimpse of them in the movie. I love this one. This is the Mishmash.
Was that Mindy?
That was Judy Troll.
Judy.
As well. And the Mishmash, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joan Rivers voice.
Yeah, that was Judy.
Oh, and this was a special model sheet of yawns.
Yes.
I think I did that for Rebecca just to torment her.
The mole sequence had yawns, so
Yeah.
it was actually in the boards. So.
Oh, is that what it gave
Yeah, that's where the mole
Get that radio.
got everybody on.
Okay.
All right.
That's my show.
We now go back to this picture by Jeanine Dawson, who was on another crew, did a drawing of our crew. And so we have Rebecca, and me, and Brian, and Joe, Steve, Randy, Chuck, Steve, again. And there you are, Chris. And Chris and Kevin, and Ann, and Tanya. And that was the group that went overseas to Taiwan. So here we are with James Wong, who ran Cuckoo's Nest Studios in Taiwan. And what a lifesaver he was. He wanted to have the influence by Disney-trained artists to help his people improve. And he gave us a huge price break, so that $2.25 million for the 90 minutes, he made that possible by cutting the price way down. And the agreement was we would really train and teach his people during the process of making the movie, and so he was great. And we moved in there, and we got very comfortable. See, Joe and I weren't sure what it said on the side of the can. When
what was inside.
And Rebecca with several of the translators. Yeah. And then with the whole class, I think this was your class, right? With
That was my crew.
That was your crew for the assistants for that part. So Rebecca was being a directing animator, but also teaching all the assistants how to do cleanup and in betweening and stuff like that. So you had a lot. So there's Rebecca and her team. And they asked us to give them all American names. So we went through and would find different reasons to name them. Sometimes people they reminded us of. You know, my parents are on there. There's people. Where are some of those? Rick, Lucy, Fred, and Ethel. And, but they just were delighted. They wanted to have names assigned, and they would wait for us to declare who they would be. Who got who?
Oh, Sparky.
Do you remember, was Pooh one of the translators?
I can't remember, but I think I named her after our cat. Pooh.
Yeah, we have Stefan and Pooh are our two cats.
We were running out of names, so I started just using my Dolly. That's my mom's name, and there's my grandfather's name, Frank. And
yeah, and Richard is your dad, and
yeah.
Dolly is your mom, and
Beethoven was because he was deaf.
He was deaf.
Oh, that's right.
yeah, yeah.
That's right.
I worked with a camera operator who called himself Fonzie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Steve, here's a bunch of you on one of the rare occasions where you got to leave the studio and go to the temples and things and look around. So I'm so glad that this group picture got taken. James again treating us to the best treatment. Wonderful restaurants. You know, I'm a third-generation vegetarian and just love that there were a lot of options for vegetarians over there. There's Sandy, who was a wonderful translator.
She was production manager.
Production manager, and yeah.
What else was Cuckoo's Nest doing at the time? They
a lot of Hanna-Barbera stuff.
They did a lot of HP.
I think they were doing the Snorks.
Yeah, but you can see the, you know, it was a similar situation that we had in the U.S. where it was all just kind of crowded in the building, and there was Wu, who was just so delightful. I felt like Wu was sort of their Joe. I felt like when I would look at them, I just felt the same sort of spirit from them, and they were both brilliant at their drawings. It just, the personality would just come right through the simplest sketch for both of them. So it was just delightful. And James allowed us to do something really unusual, which was kind of set a new hierarchy inside the studio structure. He said he wanted to really do Disney quality training. So I asked him, I said, is it okay if I give people titles appropriate to our film and not care whether they've been here 3 weeks or 10 years? And he said, yes, that's allowed. So I was able to really just look at people's skill levels for what we needed and assign them roles. So that was a real gift to help us get to the finish line more efficiently and creatively. Brian, I think this is us having a conversation back before I wore black t-shirts all the time. And I think if the camera were to pan over just a little bit, there was a water buffalo in that field.
Probably.
All the time, I think.
This was the rice field, and at the time, Cuckoo's Nest was right next to just like rice fields. Nothing else there.
Yeah, and I remember a water buffalo was there most of the time.
And it was about 100 degrees, 100% humidity.
Wow. Right.
Very humid.
And then we because of the work visas and stuff, I don't think they ever really set us up appropriately. So we actually had to leave the country every month and then come back. And so this was on one of our trips away.
Well, we couldn't work there legally.
Yeah.
So we came in on basically tourist visas and you got 90 days or something else like that.
So then we went to Hong Kong and Japan and Tokyo. And I remember the first time we all had to leave and come back the same day. And that made them really suspicious. And
got a question.
Got a question?
Yeah, about Taiwan.
Yes.
From Chase Pritchard.
Oh, hi Chase.
Yes, Chase wants to know, since you're talking about Taiwan, what are the memories from other crew and cast, or no, crew for Taiwan? Your memories there.
Anybody ever had, other than Snake Alley?
The mosquitoes were really scary. And, they were probably about as big as your pinky finger. And they would sort of, they'd like to hide in the corners of your room, so you could walk in and you'd see this sort of like little group of them over there kind of hovering, just waiting for you to come in. And then the Taiwanese had these little pads that you'd plug in, like those stinkums people put in their house that like air fresheners. Well, these were these little things you put these pads on. You couldn't smell anything, but within about 5 minutes, every mosquito in the room would be dead. And so
non-toxic, I'm sure.
You kind of had to weigh whether is this a good thing or not. But at least you didn't get bit.
When you got bit, it it would swell.
Oh, like a welt, yeah.
Yeah, they would make a big welt, so you knew in the morning when you'd come to work and you'd say good morning that somebody had
Third eye.
and it was awful. It would last for days and very painful.
Yeah, they were mean. I remember the Cleve Reinhardt set us up in apartments, and the city of Taipei, if your plan was to be as far as possible from the studio, he succeeded.
Yes, we had a long drive. We had a taxi drive to the studio, out to lunch, back to the studio, and back home. And I don't know if this happened for those of you that were in other taxis, but we had real problems pronouncing words properly there. So we'd get into the taxi every single time, and we would say what we thought was the name of the town we were going to, Sentient. And they would go, huh? And we go, Sentient, huh? And so for about 50 times, we go, Sentient, 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 Sentient. And finally, we would hit the intonation, and they'd go, oh, Sentient. And we would think, didn't we say that? But no, it's like you could say, Ni hao ma or Ni hao ma, and that the difference was, how are you or how's your horse, you know? So we just sounded stupid, but we would sit there and repeat, and then finally the taxi would take us where we were going, and we learned turn around and stop, and as like a taxi.
Stop.
Yeah, down low.
I always had the address of the apartment on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Good idea.
And just show it to them.
Yeah, I remember one day when I came in the morning. There's one of the animators there, the Taiwanese animators, could speak a little Japanese, and I could speak a little Japanese, and we could speak a little bit together. And he was trying to explain this thing, very excited in the morning. I couldn't figure, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? So finally, he gave up and he drew a picture. And he drew a picture of a rocket ship and then a big explosion. It was the space shuttle.
That's right. And I remember we were so confused because we didn't know what had happened, and we go by stores that had like 20 television screens, and they were all playing the explosion of the Challenger. And at the time that wasn't happening here, but there when they would show something like that on the news, they would play dramatic score music like we were watching a movie, and we were just wondering what had happened. So I remember that was a very, very, very confusing time.
Yeah, my first day there.
Indeed. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't forget that on your first day.
Yeah.
I remember, it's the first day, just wandered around, you get to the hotel and you wander around the neighborhood and it was just like, and it was raining and it was just like at a Blade Runner. It was like, I landed in Blade Runner. and then, like you say, the TVs and the things exploding and you're like, well, what is that? And it's all in Chinese, so you couldn't understand any of it.
Right. And I also just, even though it was a really interesting thing, even though I felt like it was on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride every time you'd ride in a taxi, where, we'd have people come over from Hong Kong to visit, from Japan to visit, and they would all be shocked when they would ride in the taxis with us because they were so scared. They'd be gripping the seat, and we'd be like driving against traffic and daring a bus and then swerving in at the last second. But during 6 months there, I only encountered one rude taxi driver. Like all of them were such nice drivers and would try to help you the best they could. So it was this weird thing where it was kind of felt dangerous but super friendly. And
You just had to watch for when they were chewing the nuts, the beetle nuts or whatever those are.
And then the chicken feet down there.
Yeah.
One time, I don't know if you were with us, Brian, but we were in a taxi and we came to a red light and we're waiting, and then all the cars on the right and left of us are going, and we're just sitting there, and we looked over and I poked him and he was asleep. He had just fallen asleep. His head was down.
I was sitting in the front seat next to
him. You wake him up. How did you wake him up? All the cars are just going past and he's snoring.
But as soon as he woke up, he hit the throttle. He realized, I'm asleep, boom, and just went. But I always took, we called it the suicide seat because there were no seat belts. And we saw.
You weren't allowed to put on a seat belt. They didn't let you. If you started to put one on, they'd say, no, that's bad luck.
We witnessed at least one accident as it happened every week, minimum. And so whenever we were going together in the taxi, I would always take the front seat because if we're going through a windshield, I'll be the first one, and I'm not going to let you guys do it. And I was so glad finally when we were finally done, and I loved James and loved his people, but there were certain things that were a little risky, and every time I put one of you on a plane and saw it leave, I was so relieved that we had finished our task and you were full and you were going home.
You should tell when the day we were going home. The day we were going home, a typhoon hit, and so you walked outside and the rain was basically going horizontally. But the cab showed up, and so we got in the cab.
Just heading to the airport, are we going to even be able to go home?
Because the cabs were driving, they didn't care typhoon or not. And we got up to the airport was sort of inland a bit, and I guess a little bit higher. And all of a sudden it cleared, and I don't know if we were in the eye of a typhoon or whatever it was, but we were able to get there, get on the plane, and get out before everything.
Right.
Well, we also got one of the crazy drivers, like the beetle nut drivers, and we were going, like this over the roads, and the rain's going sideways, and the car's going, and Chuck's going, I don't want to die here. So then when we got to the airport, it was just like everything cleared away.
Right.
The plane took off.
The pilot had the beetle nuts too, though.
Yeah. And the plane's like,
And it was, despite all of that stuff, it's funny how people feel the film feels so homey and comfortable, and it was so nice that everyone involved from our team, from the Cuckoo's Nest team, really embraced the story we were telling and the characters, and it's kind of amazing when you look back, because part of the reality was we'd have things like first time people would come to visit, they would be taken to Snake Alley, where there's like live cobra and mongoose fights happening on the sidewalk, and just all this kind of heightened craziness that people enjoy.
New Year's, were you there for New Year's?
But then we would get back in the studio, and New Year's, where it was this boxes of fireworks being set, where it was like the Mary Poppins scene where people are playing golf with fire rockets and stuff. It really was.
We were in an apartment complex. There were like 4 apartments and then a street underneath there. And on New Year's, the kids in the apartments and the higher ones, they would have these buckets of bottle rockets and all that kind of stuff.
Like in boxes.
And they would aim them at the kids on the other side of the thing. And they would start shooting back and forth. It was like
yes.
And I remember.
We saw fireworks going sideways all the time, and it wasn't just for an evening. This went on for a week.
Yeah, I remember every morning when someone left for work, they would shoot off a string of firecrackers for like a whole week for the Chinese New Year's week. And so every morning from like 5 in the morning, like every 5 minutes there'll be firecrackers going off.
Well, I had seen a number of people with one damaged eye, where that happened, where I saw a lot of people where they were blinded in one eye.
Yeah.
So I was looking around, going, "What's going to hit me in the eye?" And we started talking about it as a group. Like, I've never been somewhere where it's that prevalent. We should be careful. When that happened, and then I saw like boxes lit on fire and children running through exploding fireworks, and went, "Oh, that's probably it."
Yeah.
And so I just won't do that.
The other loud noise thing was they had guys that would make sugared puff wheat. He would come in it's like a Saturday or early in the morning when there was nobody there, and he'd push this cart in the center of an intersection and make a sound, and then he would start loading
like a
cannon full of wheat and this and that and everything else, and he would seal it up and heat it all up so it got really hot inside, and then he would open it, and then there's this boom, and it would explode.
And it's kind of like here, you'd hear the ice cream man and you have the little tinkly music and stuff. No, there it's the cannon sound, and all the little kids would come running out of the buildings to go get their puff.
They would flatten it out and cut it in squares.
They made like Rice Krispie bars, sort of, and all the kids would come running out and they'd hear the cannon go.
Well, we had that at the studio with the elephant walk, where there was a certain time every afternoon where you'd hear and Rebecca would be going over scenes with the assistants, and they'd get all squirmy and they'd be talking to each other, and she's like, "What's going on?" They go, "Can we come back in 5 minutes?" And they'd leave. And then And then we're like, well, what's going on? What's with this elephant walk thing? And every day this was happening. Everybody would just charge out the door. So she went with them one time, Rebecca did, and what?
Oh, it was, you'd stand there and normally you make lines and the
But it was, what was it? It was
like a bakery.
It was a bread truck, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, but you couldn't just wait and say, okay, now you're next and you get behind me. Oh, it was just people piling on top of each other. So if you really want something, you'd have to kind of do this, elbow your way. So, but I was curious and I got something and, ate it, but I want to know why people just disappeared.
She came back, she's all beat up, she looked like she
But I had a bagel. Also, another interesting thing was the roaches, the cockroaches, were seasonal. So in springtime, they got very colorful and they could fly.
Oh, yeah.
So if you think a cockroach this big is scary walking on the ground, imagine it coming and flying towards you. And we didn't know that until, we were watching TV, and then I said, there's one on the
goes
TV.
skittering across the floor and then takes off. So.
Yeah, and it flew, and it was flying around, and I'm screaming and hiding in the bathroom. It's very
You remember Kato the cockroach?
Yeah.
From the Pink Panther movies, there was Kato who would attack. Well, we determined that there was Kato the cockroach in our apartment, so it was my task to go in first. Rebecca would wait outside, and I'd let him attack me, and then I would deal with him, and then she could come in.
So clear.
Is this the one that she set fire to on the range, and then it?
Oh,
I was still alive.
I did that.
Oh, you did that.
I think you were giving me a haircut that day.
Oh yeah.
It flew on your range, and I turned the burner on. Cook them, because we couldn't catch them, so we'll cook them. They caught fire, and I was flying around on fire. No, not the curtains.
Was this?
That was where we were. That's me right there. Yeah,
Oh.
this is where our apartment was right in this area. Like if you go back, that's our apartment building. Up on like the second or third floor, I think we were. We were right on this corner. And so, and then all these, the bottom layer is all shops, which was quiet right here. But starting like 4 or 5 in the afternoon or something, when people would get off work, everything opened up and everything was, the streets would be jammed and there would be people all over the place.
Remember there was an earthquake that was, I think it was the worst one they'd had in 35 years when we were there, and I remember it distinctly because up in those buildings they swayed a lot, and when it hit, Rebecca and I we thought the building was going to go down. I mean, the floor was tilting back and forth, and you don't go for the stairs, you're 7 floors up. You don't go for the elevator. So we just hugged and said, I love you, and waited.
Yeah.
And we just thought that would be maybe the last hug. And then we survived, but later we looked back and went, that probably says a good thing about our relationship, that's what we did. We didn't scream, we didn't hit each other, we didn't leap out the window, we just hugged and waited, and it was okay. So yeah, you guys were all I don't know where everyone was during that time, but we had a 7 floors up wild ride.
This apartment was nice because just across the street, see where the little motorbike is?
Yeah.
If you go right across the street, there was a grocery store.
Like a supermarket.
Like a supermarket, which was one of the few supermarkets in the area. And so it was very convenient for us.
Do you remember we used to ask people to bring certain foods when they came to visit?
Yeah. I remember when we had to leave and we went to Hong Kong and we found a Mexican restaurant in Hong Kong. And we just we ate there and got rid of everything, and then Rebecca was gathering enchiladas to take back to Taiwan.
Because salsa, it was a taste that we didn't realize we missed so much. The months and months go by. So yeah.
I specifically remember I ordered a big bowl of guacamole, right? It's like one of those big ones that you're supposed to share.
You didn't share.
And everybody was
This
like,
is
oh,
mine.
they're getting ready. I go, no, that's my guacamole. Nobody's
I recall, who was it? Was it you? Somebody ate 2 entire entrees when we finally got to the Mexican restaurant. And then did you throw up also?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to jump here for a moment to this man. And it's just astounding the work that David did for us on this film. I got a lot of shots of you conducting because it's just inspiring to see you. Wow. After the moment of creating it, then to guide the orchestra, I always just think is amazing. And before I ask you to say a few words, I'll just read this to you that I put on my website. David Newman's original score for The Brave Little Toaster is an inseparable part of the film's soul. It expresses the deep emotional longing that keeps the dysfunctional ensemble going despite impossible odds. David's music never aims to trivialize or caricature the simply animated characters, instead embracing their joys and fears as genuine. Intimate and epic in turns, David's beloved score remains one of his best. And Josh, the liner notes, it was David Schweiger who wrote the liner notes. He has some quotes from you in there about working on that huge, long piece that was, what, 8 minutes that you had to write?
Oh, the end of the movie.
The end of the movie?
Yeah. Yeah, I had to figure out how many minutes of music I could write in a day, which was about 2, and then this was 7, so I think it was a 50-hour thing, but it's nothing compared to what you guys were doing.
Well, I think in here,
oh, Daniel Schweiger is his name.
Daniel
Yeah,
Schweiger.
yeah.
Okay. Some here it has you talking about.
And I worked on the plane, and then I worked all. You guys were partying on the plane.
It says you had to stay up 50 hours to write and orchestrate the music, and you weren't finished by the end of the 12-hour flight. You were still writing.
I wasn't finished till the next next day. And then they had to copy it and stuff.
You would say, Jared, what do you think of this? And then you give them the.
Did I really?
You had headphones? I mean, you had
a
keyboard.
I did.
And
I must have. Yeah. I think I was orchestrating on the plane.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. It was really early on for me, so I learned what I could do in a day by myself, you know, without any help. God, what a scene! That is the wackiest scene. You know, how dark it just gets so dark.
Yep.
You know, before the toaster sacrifices herself.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a learning experience. But God, looking at what you guys did, the animation that you showed before, it's just that's early on, right? It's all there.
Yeah.
I mean, the expression, it's so lovely. That's why music is so good with animation, because you can do a lot more stuff because of all the intricacies that you sort of highlight when you animate. I assume that's what you're doing.
Yeah,
So,
it heightens and caricatures certain aspects, so something hopefully feels like what would happen in your life rather than documenting what it looks like at that moment in your life. And since you're heightening caricatured moments of emotion, music I think fits with it.
You just can do more. And I remember you saying, like, you wanted a theme for everyone. Everyone was all. Now there's no themes, but that was the time when there were themes. But we had a theme for everything, and we used it all a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a theme for every character, and I know that you wanted that. So, generally, that is something that people ask for, but then they don't want it. You just have sort of an uber theme. But this was a thing of mixing it all up, them all being together, you know.
Well, you know,
and then that final scene where it just is doomed. They are doomed.
Yeah.
Right? And even at the end, what he said in the review, there's something, they're grown up, like there's something not sad about it, but they're not this naive thing, you know. And look what the movie spawned. Seriously. What it spawned. I mean, this was the beginning of something. What you guys did with this. Right. It's an incredible piece of work, you know. So,
well, I appreciate those thoughts, and it just what you did for the movie was so amazing, and it's like it framed and embraced all of that, and you know the effort, Deanna, that at the beginning I was taking with you all in the acting of the characters. You know, somebody got in touch with me not that long ago and said they went back and read the book, and they said, typically when I go back and read a book, I find out deeper things about the characters. And they said that the opposite was true. I knew much less when I read the book and much more in the film. And I said, well, that was one of the first things that I wanted to take on when we were working together. You know, Tom Wilhite, the producer, had said, people are telling me this would be a nice short. Like, why am I trying to make a feature? Right. And so he said, you know, it needs lots of development, lots of work to turn into a feature, but I think you're the person to do it. So I hunkered down with Joe and Brian and Alex and Daryl, and we started digging into who the individual characters were. Instead of the ensemble, like, here the group goes, it's like, what is each character? So as you guys, so we tried to define what the psychology of each character would be and the tone, and then when you guys individually brought each one to life, and then when David took the music and went, now I'm highlighting their individuality too. So I can embrace the ensemble, but I can embrace their individual.
And they all have music in their voices too, particularly I think that kind of sing-song, you know, wow, everything's good. And then they take this journey and it changes. It has a lot of nuance in it, which is
they start with such a naive, optimistic attitude.
Well, and you strived, you told us, don't do cartoony voice. You just wanted us to be real and genuine and express emotions and not go, you know, so I mean, for the main characters.
Absolutely, and one of the reasons that when you guys did that and brought the reality to it, to me it was like a rescue, was because I had gone through a brief experience where I took some pages I'd written, brought in some people to read before I found you, and it was so depressing because they were doing all of that. You know, here it was a crazy situation, and all of us that were telling the story were saying, well, what would it be like to really be these characters and really want to be useful and really miss someone and really try your hardest and really get into trouble and now maybe be crushed, and you know, like what would that feel like? And they would come in and goof on the whole thing. So it's like, oh, it's all a joke. We're waving at the audience. You know,
we're gonna do clean it today. Let's clean.
And I remember looking at the page and going, I know in my mind when I wrote this page, it sounded better in my head than it's sounding right now. And Joe, bless his heart, was just saying, well, you know, I've been working at the Groundlings Improv Theater, taking classes there to try to just up my game, and they have some really cool people. You want to go listen to them? And I was like, yes, please, let's go listen. And then when I went and saw you guys on stage, you were doing the opposite of what these other people did, where they were saying, how can I make this as crazy as possible when I act? You were being handed by the audience crazy situations, and you were trying to make them relatable and believable. So somebody go, you're a radish, and then who is he? A stalk of celery. It's like, well, what are they doing? They